Imagine this. It's 2 a.m. The house is completely silent. Then your phone rings. On the other end is your son, a commercial airline pilot, and he whispers, "Mom, she's not at home, she's on my plane." Impossible, because the woman he's talking about was pronounced dead yesterday. The story has a staged death, a secret hidden in the sky, and a mother forced to make a choice. That could change everything. If you enjoy dark, realistic thrillers, family secrets, and stories with shocking twists, make sure you watch till the very end. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, because stories like this don't end where you expect. Now, let's go back to the night when one flight changed its destiny. The phone rang at 2:17 a.m. Not the polite kind of ring, not the one that waits patiently for you to wake up. This was sharp, insistent, the kind that drills straight into your chest before your eyes even open. I knew, before I touched the phone, that nothing good ever comes from a call at that hour. I sat up in bed, heart already racing, the digital clock glowing in accusing red beside me. My husband, Harris, stirred next to me and murmured something incoherent. I didn't wake him. I didn't know why, but some instinct told me this call was meant for me alone. The screen read, "Ethan, my son, my pilot son." I answered, my voice thick with sleep. "Ethan, is everything okay?" There was breathing on the other end. Slow, controlled, too controlled. Then his voice came through, but it wasn't the voice I knew. It wasn't the confident, calm tone of a commercial airline captain who had safely carried thousands of lives across oceans and continents. This voice was low, tight, almost afraid. "Mom," he whispered, "you need to tell me something. Right now." I swung my legs out of bed. "Tell you what? Ethan, where are you? Aren't you supposed to be on the overnight flight to Denver?" "I am," he said. Then he paused. "That's the problem." My fingers tightened around the phone. "What do you mean?" Another breath, longer this time. "She's not at home," he whispered. "She's on my plane." The world tilted. I repeated. "Who is she?" He didn't answer immediately. And in that silence, something cold crept up my spine, as if my body already knew the truth, but my mind was still scrambling to catch up. "Mom," he said again, quieter now. "I just saw her boarding pass." I checked to manifest myself. I swallowed. "Ethan, you're not making sense. Who are you talking about?" "Our neighbor," he said. "Lena." I felt the blood drain from my face. Lena wasn't supposed to be anywhere near an airport. Lena wasn't supposed to be alive. Lena Whitmore had lived next door to us for 6 years. She was the kind of woman you notice without trying. Soft-spoken, polite, always smiling as if she knew something pleasant the rest of us had forgotten. She brought cookies during holidays, watered our plants when we traveled, and once sat with me for hours when Harris was hospitalized, holding my hand without saying a word. 3 days ago, the police knocked on her door. 2 days ago, an ambulance left with its sirens off. Yesterday morning, we were told Lena had been found dead in her house. Natural causes, they said. Heart failure. Case closed. So when my son whispered her name into the phone, my first instinct was to laugh. Not because it was funny, but because it was impossible. "Ethan," I said slowly, choosing my words carefully, "Lena is dead." "I know what they said," he replied. "That's why I'm calling you." The plane hummed in the background, a low mechanical growl that made everything feel more unreal. "She boarded 10 minutes ago," he continued. "Seat 24B. Same name, same date of birth, same face." I pressed my free hand to my mouth. "This isn't a joke," he said quickly. "I wouldn't joke about something like this." "I know," I whispered. "I know you wouldn't." Harris shifted beside me. "Who is it?" he mumbled. I covered the phone. "It's Ethan," I whispered back. "Go back to sleep." But sleep was already a memory. "Mom," Ethan said urgently, I need you to check something for me. Please. What? Go next door, he said. Go to Lena's house. Right now. My stomach dropped. It's 2 a.m., Ethan. I know, but I need to know if she's there. I stared at the dark hallway beyond our bedroom door. The house felt suddenly too quiet, like it was holding its breath. Mom, he repeated, please. I slid out of bed, my feet cold against the floor. Okay, I said, I'll go. Don't wake Dad, he added, and don't tell anyone. That should have scared me more than it did. I pulled on a sweater, slipped my phone into my pocket, and quietly stepped out of the bedroom. The house creaked softly as I moved, every sound amplified by the silence of the night. Outside, the street was empty. The moon hung low, casting pale shadows across the lawns. Lena's house stood exactly as it always had. Lights off, curtains drawn, her blue sedan parked neatly in the driveway. Everything looked normal. That made it worse. I walked up to her front door and stood there, staring at the brass knocker shaped like a leaf. My hand hovered, trembling. Mom. Ethan's voice came through the phone again. He hadn't hung up. I'm here, I whispered. Is there any sign of movement? I shook my head, then realized he couldn't see me. No, it looks empty. Try the door, he said. My heart thudded. Ethan, please. I reached out and turned the handle. It opened, unlocked. A chill ran through me. Mom, he said sharply. The door's open, I whispered. I stepped inside. The house smelled the same, lavender and lemon cleaner. The entryway light was off, but moonlight spilled into the windows, illuminating the familiar furniture, the family photos on the wall, the small table with the vase. She never changed. Everything was exactly where it should be, except something was missing. The faint metallic smell the paramedics had left behind. I walked further in, my breath shallow. Ethan, there's no sign of anything. Go to the kitchen, he said. I did. The kettle sat on the stove. A mug rested by the sink. Clean, dry. She always left it there. I whispered, more to myself than to him. What about her bedroom? I hesitated. Then I went. The bed was made. Too neatly. The closet door was open, and half the clothes were gone. I felt dizzy. Mom, Ethan said, his voice breaking now. She's looking at me. My heart stopped. What? She's seated. She just turned around. I swear to God, Mom, it's her. I gripped the doorframe to steady myself. Ethan, I whispered, you need to land that plane. I can't, he said. We're about to taxi. Panic surged through me. Then you need to call security. I already tried, he said. They told me to focus on flying. My knees buckled, and I sank onto the edge of Lena's bed. Mom, he continued, his voice barely audible over the engines. There's something else. What? She smiled at me. I closed my eyes. That's impossible, I said. I know. Silence stretched between us. Then he whispered the words that would change everything. Mom, she mouthed something to me. What did she say? He swallowed. I'm not supposed to be here. I don't remember how I got back to my house. I remember standing in Lena's bedroom, staring at the empty half of her closet, my son's whispered words echoing in my ears. She smiled at me. I remember the weight of the silence, the way it pressed against my chest until breathing felt like work. And then, somehow, I was back across the street. My front door closed behind me with a soft, final click. I leaned against it, my knees weak, my phone still pressed in my ear. Mom, Ethan said, are you still there? Yes, I whispered. I'm here. My voice sounded distant, even to me, like it belonged to someone else. Her house, he asked. Was she there? No, I said. She's gone. Half her things are missing. There was a pause. Not silence. Never silence on a plane. But a lull. The kind that comes when someone is trying very hard not to let their fear leak into their voice. That means she planned this, he said finally. The word plan sent a shiver through me. Ethan, I said, people don't plan to fake their deaths. Some people do, he replied. And the way she's acting, Mom, she's calm, too calm, like she expected to see me. I slid down onto the floor, my back against the door. You said she mouthed something to you. Yes. What exactly? He exhaled slowly. She said, I'm not supposed to be here. And then she tapped the window. The window? The cockpit door window, he said, twice. My stomach twisted. What does that mean? I don't know, he admitted. But, Mom, I don't think she's afraid of me. A sudden noise came through the phone, a muffled voice, distorted by distance and metal. That's my first officer, Ethan said quickly. We're about to push back. No, I said sharply. Ethan, listen to me. You can't take off. I don't have a choice, he said. We're already late. And unless I have a legitimate reason. You have a legitimate reason. I hissed. A dead woman is on your plane. I can't say that, he replied. Not without proof. To them, it'll sound like I'm hallucinating. My mind raced. Then watch her. Don't let her out of your sight. I can't leave the cockpit, Mom. Then, promise me you'll be careful, I said. There was another pause. I promise, he said softly. The call ended. The moment the line went dead, the house felt wrong. Not empty, wrong. I stood up slowly, every nerve screaming. Harris was still asleep upstairs. The clock on the wall ticked steadily, each second too loud, too deliberate. I walked into the kitchen and poured myself a glass of water. My hand shook so badly I spilled half of it on the counter. Lena is dead, I told myself. No, Lena was dead. Yesterday, I had watched them wheel her out of that house under a white sheet. I had heard the officer explain, in that careful voice they use when they don't want to scare you, that there was no sign of foul play. Had there been, I replayed the last time I saw her. 2 nights before her death, she had knocked on my door just after sunset. She looked the same as always, neatly dressed, hair pulled back, that gentle smile in place. I wanted to say goodbye, she'd said. I'd laughed. You're not moving, are you? She tilted her head, something like that. At the time, I thought she meant a trip, a visit to family. I remember thinking how tired she looked, how her eyes kept flicking past me into the house. If anything strange happens, she'd said suddenly, promise me you won't ignore it. What do you mean? I'd asked. She'd smiled again. Good night. And then she'd walked away. I hadn't thought about that conversation until now. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. She's not supposed to be there. My blood ran cold. Another message followed immediately. Neither are you. I dropped the phone. By the time dawn broke, I hadn't slept. Harris noticed. Of course. You look awful, he said gently as he poured his coffee. Bad dream. I stared at him. How could I explain this without sounding insane? Ethan called. I said instead. Harris stiffened. Is he okay? Yes, I said. No, I don't know. I told him everything. He didn't interrupt. He didn't laugh. He didn't dismiss me. When I finished, he sat back in his chair and rubbed his face. You think Lena faked her death, he said slowly, and somehow ended up on Ethan's flight. Yes. And she's contacting you, he added. Yes. Harris was quiet for a long time. Then we need proof, he said finally. Proof of what? That she was never dead, he said, or that someone helped her disappear. How? He stood. We go to the hospital. The hospital smelled like disinfectant and exhaustion. We told the receptionist we were friends of Lena Whitmore, here to collect personal items. She was transferred to the morgue, the woman said without looking up. County facility. Harris leaned forward. Which one? She glanced at him, then sighed and typed something into her computer. "County South," she said. "But I'll tell you now, there's nothing collect." "Why?" I asked. "She was released," the receptionist replied. My heart skipped. "Released? To who?" The woman frowned. "That's odd." She turned her screen slightly. "There's no record of a body transfer," she said slowly. "Just discharge paperwork." "Discharge?" Harris echoed. The receptionist looked up at us, concern creeping into her expression. "Are you sure she passed away?" I felt the room spin. "Yes," I said. "We were told she died." The woman swallowed. "According to this," she walked out. My phone rang. "Ethan." I answered instantly. "Ethan?" "Mom," he said. His voice was strained. "We're cruising now." Something happened. "What?" I asked. She moved seats. My chest tightened. "Why?" "She wanted to be closer to the cockpit," he said. "She told the flight attendant she was needed." "Did anyone stop her?" "They tried," he said. "She showed some kind of credential." "What kind?" "I don't know," he said. "But, Mom," the flight attendant recognized it. "Recognized it as what?" "As federal," he said. The hospital around me seemed to fade. "Ethan," I whispered, "what does she want?" "I think," he said slowly, "she wants me to remember her." "Remember what?" "She keeps looking at the cockpit door," he said. "And when she does, it's like she's counting." "Counting what?" "Minutes," he replied. My phone buzzed again. Another message from the unknown number. 30 minutes left. I showed Harris. His face drained to color. "What happens in 30 minutes?" he asked. I didn't answer, because deep down I already knew. The plane was scheduled to cross over restricted airspace. Airspace that didn't officially exist. Airspace that, years ago, Ethan had once told me about after too many glasses of wine. Routes pilots weren't supposed to ask questions about corridors in the sky that belonged to no country and every authority. And Lena, apparently, had unfinished business there. My phone rang one last time. Ethan's voice came through, tight with fear and something else, recognition. "Mom," he said, "she just stood up. And she's walking toward the cockpit," he whispered. "And Mom." "What?" "She knows my name." The first thing Ethan noticed was the silence. Not the normal cockpit silence, the low hum of engines, the soft chatter of instruments, the constant background noise that pilots learn to live inside of. This was different. This was absence, like a sound that should have been there simply stopped. He glanced at his first officer, Mark, who was staring straight ahead, hands steady on the controls. "You hear that?" Ethan asked. Mark frowned. "Hear what?" "Exactly." Ethan swallowed. His headset crackled faintly as air traffic control cleared another aircraft somewhere far below them. Everything looked normal. Altitude steady. Fuel consumption nominal. Weather calm. And yet his pulse refused to slow. Behind a reinforced cockpit door, Lena Whitmore stood perfectly still. Ethan could see her through the small oval window. She wasn't knocking. She wasn't speaking. She wasn't demanding entry. She was waiting, counting, on the ground. I sat in my car outside County South Hospital. My phone clenched so tightly my fingers ached. Harris stood near the hood, arguing quietly with a man in a security uniform. "There is no record," the guard repeated. "If there's no body logged in, there's nothing I can show you." "But we were told," Harris began. "I know what you were told," the guard said, softer now. "But officially, Lena Whitmore was discharged alive." Alive. The word echoed in my head like a hammer striking glass. My phone buzzed again. 20 minutes. I felt sick. I typed back with shaking fingers. "What happens in 20 minutes?" The reply came instantly. "You already know." I thought of Ethan's stories. The ones he told late at night, when the house was quiet and the past crept in through the cracks. Stories about flight paths that didn't appear on civilian maps. about corridors pilots follow without asking why, about instructions delivered without explanation. Just fly, they'd say, and don't deviate. I had always assumed it was bureaucracy, military coordination, classified logistics. I had never imagined a woman like Lena was part of it. On the plane, the flight attendant tried again. "Ma'am," she said firmly, "you need to return to your seat." Lena smiled at her, not kindly, not cruelly, precisely. "I will," she said. In a moment, she leaned closer to the cockpit door, her eyes locking with Ethan's through the glass. She raised her hand. "Knock, knock." Mark turned. "Who is that?" Ethan didn't answer. "Captain?" Mark pressed. "She knows me," Ethan said quietly. Mark laughed uneasily. "Lots of passengers, no pilots. You're on the announcements." "No," Ethan said. "She knows me." Another knock. This time, the cockpit door indicator chimed. "Request for entry." "That's not possible," Mark said. "Only crew." Ethan's console lit up. "Authorized access request received." Mark stared. "What the hell?" Ethan's throat went dry. "Deny it." Mark reached for the switch. It was already green. Unlocked. The door opened. Lena stepped inside as if she had always belonged there. She closed the door behind her gently, sealing them off from the cabin. Her eyes flicked over the instruments, the controls, the two men seated before her. "Hello, Ethan," she said calmly. Mark stood abruptly. "Ma'am, you can't be in here." "I can," she replied. "And I am." She turned back to Ethan. "You've grown," she said. "Your mother will be proud." Ethan's blood roared in his ears. "You're dead." "I was," she corrected. "Briefly." Mark looked between them. "Captain, do you know this woman?" "Yes," Ethan said, "unfortunately." Lena smiled. "We've been neighbors." "That's not what I mean," Mark snapped. "This is a security breach. I'm calling." Lena raised a hand. Every screen in the cockpit flickered. Altitude froze. Speed indicators went blank. The compass spun, then stilled, pointing nowhere. Mark's face drained of color. "What did you do?" "I adjusted your permissions," Lena said lightly. "This aircraft is now operating under a different authority." Ethan forced himself to breathe. "Why are you here?" She studied him, her gaze sharp now, evaluating. "Because you were always meant to be," she said. "When Ethan was 7, he had told me he wanted to fly because the sky felt quiet. Up there," he'd said, pointing to the clouds, "everything makes sense." I remembered that now as Lena spoke. "You were selected years ago," she continued, "long before you earned your wings." "Selected for what?" Ethan demanded. "For this route," she said. "For this moment." Mark shook his head. "This is insane." "It is inevitable," Lena replied. She stepped closer to the windshield. Outside, the sky had changed. The blue had deepened to something darker, thicker. The clouds below formed strange, swirling patterns, as if stirred by invisible hands. Ethan recognized the coordinates flashing faintly on his navigation display. They weren't on any public chart. "We're entering the corridor," he whispered. "Yes," Lena said, "and you're right on time." On the ground, my phone rang again. "Ethan." "Mom," he said. His voice was steady, but underneath it, I heard fear. "She's in the cockpit." I closed my eyes. "What does she want?" "She says this flight isn't about passengers," he said. "It's about delivery." "Delivery of what?" "Us," he replied. My heart clenched. "Ethan, listen to me. You can still turn back." "I can't," he said. "The controls aren't responding." A new message appeared on my screen. 10 minutes. "Mom," Ethan said softly, "do you remember when you told me some people exist to open doors?" "Yes," I whispered. "I told you that after Dad's accident." Lena's voice came through faintly in the background. "And some people," she added, "exist to walk through them." The cabin lights dimmed without warning. Passengers murmured, confused. Some pressed call buttons. Others stared out the windows, transfixed by the sky that no longer looked like sky. Mark whispered, "Captain, are you seeing that?" Ethan was. Ahead of them. The clouds parted, not naturally, not gradually. They peeled back, revealing something vast and impossible. A void, not empty, waiting. The instruments began to respond again, adjusting themselves without input. Course locked. Speed steady. "No," Ethan said. "I didn't set that." "You didn't need to," Lena replied. "You consented when you chose this life." Mark backed away. "I'm leaving this cockpit." "You can't," Lena said gently. "You were never meant to remember this." She touched his shoulder. Mark blinked. "What were we talking about?" he asked. Ethan stared in horror. "What did you do to him?" "I removed him from the equation," Lena said. "This is between you and me." "And her," Ethan said. "My mother." Lena inclined her head. "Yes, her too." At that moment, my phone vibrated violently. A call, not from Ethan, from Lena's number. I answered. "Hello," Lena said warmly. "Thank you for keeping your promise." My hands trembled. "What promise?" "To not ignore something strange," she replied. "You used us," I said. "You lived next to us. You watched my son." "I protected him," she corrected, "until he was ready." "For what?" I demanded. "For what comes after," Lena said. The line crackled. "You see," she continued, "some doors require witnesses. Some crossings require anchors." "Anchors?" I whispered. "You," she said. In the cockpit, Ethan felt it then, a pull, not physical, emotional, like memory tugging at memory. Images flooded his mind. Flights he didn't remember logging. Conversations that faded when he tried to recall them. A woman standing quietly at gates he swore he'd never visited. Lena had always been there. "You guided me," he said. "Yes," she replied. "And now you guide them." The void ahead shimmered. "What happens to the passengers?" Ethan asked. "They arrive," Lena said. "Where?" She smiled sadly. "Where they were always going." Ethan shook his head. "I won't do this." "You already are," Lena said. "On the ground." I screamed into the phone. "Ethan, fight it." "I am," he said. "Mom, if something happens." "No," I said fiercely. "Listen to me. You are my son. You choose." Lena paused. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across her face. "He was never supposed to have that kind of bond," she murmured. Ethan straightened in his seat. "I choose," he said clearly, to turn back. The instruments hesitated. The void rippled. Lena's eyes widened. "You can't." "I can," he said, "because I remember who taught me to choose." The plane shuddered violently. Alarm screamed. On the ground, my phone went dead. For 3 minutes, the world held its breath. Then my phone rang. "Ethan." "Mom," he said hoarsely. "We're diverting." Relief crashed through me so hard I nearly collapsed. "What about her?" I asked. "She's gone," he said. "Just gone." "And the passengers?" "They think it was turbulence," he said. "They'll never know." I pressed my hand to my chest. "Come home." "I will," he promised. But before the call ended, he added quietly, "Mom." "Yes." She wasn't lying about one thing. "What?" She said some doors stay open. Ethan landed the plane in Albuquerque just before sunrise. Officially, it was a precautionary diversion due to instrument irregularities and unexpected turbulence. Passengers were offered vouchers, apologies, and vague reassurances. By noon, most of them were already telling the story as an inconvenience, nothing more than a strange flight with bad weather and an overcautious captain. That was a miracle of ordinary explanations. They erase the impossible. But miracles have a cost. I watched the news coverage from our living room, my hands wrapped around a mug that had gone cold hours ago. Harris sat beside me, silent, eyes fixed on the screen. Flight 728 diverted safely, the anchor said. No injuries reported. Safe. The word felt fragile. My phone buzzed. Ethan, I'm grounded for now. They're running evaluations. I'm okay. I exhaled for what felt like the first time in days. Me, come home. The typing bubble appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Ethan, I don't think home is safe anymore. My chest tightened. Ethan arrived 2 days later. He looked the same, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing his jacket slung over one arm, but something behind his eyes had shifted, like a man who had seen a color the rest of us couldn't, and now found the world dimmer by comparison. He hugged me longer than usual. You feel real, he murmured. I am real, I said, forcing a smile. And so are you. I hope so, he replied. That night, none of us slept. It started with the sounds. At 3:12 a.m., I heard footsteps outside, not on the street, inside the house. Slow, measured, familiar. I held my breath, listening. The footsteps stopped outside Ethan's old bedroom. Then came a knock. 2 soft taps, exactly like Lena's. I sat bolt upright, my heart slamming against my ribs. From down the hall, I heard Ethan's door creak open. Ethan, I whispered urgently. Don't. Too late. He stepped into the hallway, eyes unfocused, as if pulled by gravity rather than curiosity. The hallway light flickered. The temperature dropped. And then she was there. Not Lena, not entirely. She wore Lena's face, but was thinner now, stretched like a mask worn too long. Her eyes reflected no light, only depth, like windows opening into something vast and distant. You shouldn't have brought him back, she said softly. I stepped between them. Get out of my house. She smiled. This house was never yours. Harris appeared behind me, gripping a baseball bat with white knuckles. What do you want? He demanded. Her gaze slid to him briefly, dismissively. I want balance, she said, and he broke it. Ethan's voice trembled. You said I had a choice. You did, she replied. You chose delay. Delay what? I snapped. She looked at me then, really looked at me. You, she said. You were the anchor. You still are. She explained it slowly, as if speaking to children. The corridors weren't places. They were processes, transitions between states of existence, life to death, knowing, forgetting, order to chaos. Most people pass through unaware. Some, like Ethan, were sensitive to the passage. Pilots, navigators, people trained to trust instruments while sensing what lay beyond them. And watchers, people like Lena, or what Lena had been. We don't live lives, she said. We occupy them. My stomach churned. You stole her life. No, she corrected. She volunteered. Ethan stared. For what? For purpose, she said. For relief. For the chance to stop being human. I felt sick. And now? Harris asked. Now she's gone, the thing said, and the corridor remains. Silence fell. What happens if no one guides it? I asked. She tilted her head. It widens. The first incident happened a week later. A private jet vanished over the Atlantic. No distress call. No debris. Just gone. Then a cargo ship failed to arrive in port. Its last known position directly beneath Ethan's former route. Then the dream started. Ethan woke screaming, night after night, describing skies folding inward, instruments whispering coordinates, voices calling his name from places with no language. They're reopening it, he said one morning, eyes bloodshot, without control. Who was they? I asked. He shook his head. I don't know, but Lena wasn't the only one. That's when the knocks began again, always at night. Always 2 taps. Never at the door, at windows, walls, ceilings, like something testing boundaries. We tried running. We sold the house in a week, packed only essentials, drove until the roads blurred together and the radio lost signal. It didn't matter. At every motel, Ethan was recognized, not by face, by function. "Are you a pilot?" strangers would ask, eyes too bright. At a gas station in Arizona, a woman pressed a napkin into his hand. On it were numbers, coordinates. "This is where it's thinnest," she whispered before walking away. That night, the sky over the desert rippled. I realized the truth too late. Lena hadn't chosen Ethan because he could fly. She chose him because he could refuse. And refusal had consequences. The corridor needed a decision. Close it permanently or surrender to it completely. There was no third option. The final night came quietly. No knocks, no dreams, just a stillness so complete it felt like morning. Ethan sat at the kitchen table, staring at the map spread before him. "I have to go back up," he said. "No," I said immediately. "You don't." "I do," he replied, "but not the way they want." Harris looked at him. "What does that mean?" Ethan met my eyes. "It means you let go." My heart cracked. "I won't." "You already did," he said gently. "Every time you let me fly." Tears streamed down my face. "I was proud of you." He smiled sadly. "That's what makes it work." At dawn, we stood on a private airstrip far from any official map. A small aircraft waited. Old, analog, untouched by modern systems. No corridor could hijack what it couldn't recognize. Ethan hugged us both. "If I don't come back," he began. "You will," I said fiercely. He hesitated. "If I don't, remember me whole." The engine started. The sky darkened. And as the plane lifted, I felt it. The pull, not on him, on me. Something inside me loosening, unmooring. I understood then. Anchors weren't meant to last forever. As the aircraft vanished into the clouds, the air around us stilled. The pressure lifted. Somewhere far above, a door closed. Ethan returned 3 days later. Alone. The corridor was gone. So was something else. He remembered flying. He remembered us. But the dreams were gone. The sensitivity. The pull. He was just a man again. And somewhere I knew Lena finally rested. But sometimes, on clear nights, when planes cross silently overhead, I still hear 2 soft taps. And I know some doors never close. They just learn to wait. For a long time after Ethan came back, we pretended everything was over. That's what people do when impossible brushes too close to their lives. They seal it away with routine. Coffee in the morning, news at night, conversations about weather and groceries, and plans that assume tomorrow is guaranteed. Ethan stayed with us for a while. He said it was temporary, that he needed rest before returning to the airline. The doctors called it acute stress response. The company called it administrative grounding. Everyone had a name for what happened. Everyone except us, because names give things boundaries. And whatever had touched our lives didn't believe in boundaries. At first, the changes were subtle. Ethan stopped looking at the sky. This was the first sign, though I didn't recognize it as such. My son, the boy who once lay on his back in the grass for hours watching contrails stitch the clouds together, now kept his eyes firmly on the ground. If a plane passed overhead, he flinched. If thunder rolled, he went quiet. "You okay?" I asked him one afternoon as we sat on the porch. "Yeah," he said quickly. Too quickly. Just tired. But it wasn't exhaustion. It was absence. Something essential had been taken from him. Not violently, not cruelly, but surgically, like a sense removed so cleanly that only the consequences remained. He could still fly, technically. His skills hadn't disappeared. His memory hadn't been erased. But the knowing was gone. The instinct, the connection, the thing Lena had called sensitivity. One evening, weeks later, he finally said it aloud. When I'm in a cockpit now, he admitted quietly, it feels like driving a car with fog windows. Everything works, but I can't feel the road. I reached for his hand. Is that bad? I asked. He hesitated. I don't know. It's safer, but it's emptier. That night, I cried in the bathroom with the faucet running so no one would hear, because I knew the truth he didn't yet have words for. He had paid the price, so the rest of us wouldn't have to. What Ethan lost was obvious. What I lost took longer to understand. It began with memory, not forgetting, never forgetting, but misplacing parts of myself. I'd stand in the kitchen and suddenly feel unsure why I'd entered. I'd wake from dreams that dissolved the moment I opened my eyes, leaving behind only the ache of something unfinished. Once, while folding laundry, I found a sweater I didn't recognize. Gray, soft, too big to be mine. When I held it, a wave of grief washed over me so strong, I had to sit down. I couldn't explain why. I only knew it mattered. That night, I dreamed of doors, hundreds of them, all closed, all humming softly, like they were breathing. And behind one of them, something knocked twice. The world moved on. That was perhaps the strangest part. No mass disappearances, no public reckoning, no news stories connecting dots that weren't meant to be seen. The vanished jet over the Atlantic was eventually attributed to catastrophic structural failure. The missing cargo ship became a mystery for internet forums and late-night podcasts. The corridor, whatever it truly was, slipped back into rumor and classified silence. Officially, nothing had changed. Unofficially, air traffic routes were altered. Certain coordinates became permanently restricted. Some pilots were quietly reassigned. Others retired early, their logbooks sealed. And once, in an aviation forum Ethan no longer visited, someone posted, "Anyone else feel like the sky used to be bigger?" The post was deleted within minutes. 3 months after Ethan returned, Lena's house burned down. Electrical fire. They said, total loss. I watched from across the street as firefighters doused the remains, the flames painting the night orange and gold. I felt relief and guilt and something else. Recognition. As the roof collapsed inward, I swore I saw her standing in the smoke. Not Lena exactly, but the idea of her, whole, unburdened. She nodded once. Then she was gone. After that, the knocking stopped. Ethan eventually went back to flying. Short-haul routes. Domestic only. No red ice. No unexplained diversions. He did well. Too well. Passengers praised his professionalism. Colleagues admired his precision. He became known as reliable, predictable, safe. Everything Lena had once guided him away from. On his first anniversary back in the air, he came home for dinner. We celebrated quietly. After dessert, he lingered at the table, turning his fork over and over in his hands. "Mom," he said, "can I ask you something?" "Always." "Do you ever feel like you were meant to do something else?" The question hit harder than he could have known. "Yes," I said honestly. "Do you?" He nodded. "I don't know what it is. I just know it's gone." I reached across the table and squeezed his hand. "Maybe," I said, "it was never meant to stay." Years passed. Life filled in the cracks. Harris grew older, softer. Ethan moved closer to us, married, had a daughter with eyes like the open sky. I learned to hold her a little tighter whenever planes passed overhead. Sometimes, late at night, I'd sit alone and feel the echo of that old pull. Not strong enough to act on, not sharp enough to name, just enough to remember. Anchors don't disappear when they're released. They become weight. And weight, I learned, can be carried. The last message came on a Tuesday. No number. No warning. Just text. "You did well." I stared at it for a long time. Then I typed back, "Is it over?" The reply took longer this time. "For you?" "Yes." I felt my shoulders sag with relief, so deep it bordered on exhaustion. "And Ethan?" I asked. Three dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. He was never meant to remember, only to choose. I closed my eyes. What about you? I typed. The answer came at last. I am where I belong, watching doors close. I deleted the message, not because I was afraid, but because some things deserve rest. Now, when people ask why I'm telling this story, I give them a simple answer. Because doors don't just open in the sky. They open in people. And sometimes, the only thing standing between the ordinary world and something vast and hungry is a quiet choice made by someone who loves deeply enough to let go. If you ever hear two soft taps where none should be, pause, listen, and choose carefully. Because not everyone who whispers from the other side is asking for permission. Some are asking for you. And this is where the story ends. But the questions don't. If that door was truly closed, then why, even now, do two soft knocks sometimes echo in the dark? Maybe some secrets are never meant to disappear. They just wait. If this story stayed with you, don't forget to like the video. It lets us know you want more stories like this. And subscribe to the channel, because the next story might feel even closer to home. Until the next one, remember this. Not every door that closes is really gone.